Hey, it says we're live. Hello, everybody in the YouTube universe. It is Brad and
Claire
from the Big Family Homestead, and tonight is Tech Talk night. Yay! The crowd goes wild. And normally we talk about homesteading and cooking from scratch and all that kind of wonderful stuff, but I am straight up at least 65% nerd, and therefore I can't let my nerd cred just fade away into a garden somewhere. Nay, I have to make sure that I'm exercising my nerdiness, or else my nerdiness will exercise me. And we are here with Will from the Weekend Homestead, and Will happens to be nerdier than probably two of me, and I really appreciate that. How are you tonight, sir?
I am a geek. I'll admit it straight up. That's kind of what I do. You know, I drive a tractor and I have fun on the homestead and all that stuff. But in all reality, I'm a geek.
Well, thank the heavens to Murgatroyd, you are a nerd, because we've got a lot of nerdiness to deal with today, sir. Are you prepared?
I am ready. Let's go.
Okay. Last week, I'm just going to do a real quick recap, because there's a lot of stuff that we talked about last week that we never got through all the way. And a lot of people were really, really enjoying the different ways that we can help them to benefit their channel with making money. Tonight, we're going to talk about some digital products, ebooks possibilities, consulting, freelance work, licensing, possible speaker gigs. There's a ton of stuff, but the very first one I want to start with is because it's very, very in your face. It's a current affair, and it applies to absolutely everybody who is online, period, end of story, and that is web security. Dun, dun, dun. The WannaCry virus is in the news, and from what I'm hearing, it sounds like this stuff's pretty nasty-wasty, and it does not sound like an individual made it. It sounds like a government made it. Do you know about it? How it went? How did it get out there? Do you know what is the WannaCry virus?
So I've heard a lot of different versions of this, and you're gonna have to refresh me, because I've heard about 7 different names for this, and it could be depending on which hacker group or whoever you're talking to. But I know that there's a virus going around currently today that once it gets on your machine, it encrypts your hard drive, and then a website pops up on your machine and they ask you to send Bitcoins. Basically, it's freezing your computer and freezing your hard drive and encrypting it in a way. And then they say, hey, send me $50 or send me $100 or something like that, and then I'll unencrypt your hard drive. I know that's the one that's been going around recently that I've seen on some of the chatter. Is that the one you're referring to? Because I know it has multiple names.
Yes, absolutely. And it basically holds you for ransom. I mean, if that's the easiest way I can say. Yeah, but now who would make this kind of thing? It just sounds to me like people that are, hey, I just want to hose people out of their money, and this is how I'm going to make my money. Is that, because I don't like people that do that.
Well, let's talk about where this came from originally. So Microsoft had a glitch in their system, or a security flaw, as they call it, or whatever, and it was discovered and stored in a very secret place for a long time, and Microsoft wasn't aware of it, but people in the market were aware of it, and then those secrets got out, and some groups decided, hey, wait a minute, here's a vulnerability that we could take advantage of. Let's write something to do this. Eventually, Microsoft did produce a patch for it, but only 20% of the people actually installed that patch on their computer, so it left 80% of the people vulnerable to it. And then this thing started spreading and going all over the place. And the crazy thing is once you get it on your machine, it takes your contact list and sends out information to all of your contacts, so that then they have it too, and that's how it multiplies and propagates all over the place.
Yuck, ucky, don't like it at all. What are the average person on the street? Because we're all susceptible. Everybody can see an email that you think is innocent. You think it's from your bank or whatever, or and you're like, oh, I just want to check my PayPal balance, and so you click on something, and then, whoa, wait a minute, this is not like PayPal, and then you look up at the address, and it's not PayPal.com, it's something else. What are some basics that people can do to be aware of this stuff so they don't get themselves into the trouble in the first place?
So a couple things. First off, I've actually received this invitation for the virus probably 2 or 3 times in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I have a Windows machine and I have a Mac, because in the world that I'm in, I have to be able to test products both on a PC and on a Macintosh computer. So because of that, I haven't seen anything really on my PC. I've received it. And actually, it looks like a real document. I got an email from a friend that said, hey, here's a Google document that I'm editing. Do you want to open it and check it out? The first thing I did before I clicked on that link in the email, I went to myself and went, wait a second, was so-and-so working on something and sending it to me? Sounds kind of fishy. So what I did was I opened up an internet browser and went to my Google Documents folder, and I noticed that it wasn't in there. So that's one of the first things that you can do is instead of clicking on the link in the email or clicking on the file that's in the email, if there's something for Dropbox or if there's something for Google Documents or PayPal or your bank or something like that, just leave your email sit there, open up a fresh window somewhere else and go to your bank or go to PayPal or go wherever. Because if the transaction, let's say Brad, let's say you sent me $10 via PayPal. I would get an email that says, hey, there's an email out there for $10 for PayPal. But if I open up my PayPal manually on the side in another window and I go paypal.com, open it up and log in, guess what? That message and that transaction that you and I are doing is in there. If it's not in there, then something's astray, because normally a service like PayPal or your bank or wherever will have the records on their machine and then the email is secondary. Versus in this scenario, they're trying to pose that the email is the first party and then you need to use that to get to your stuff. So that's the first thing I recommend to people is don't click the link necessarily in a suspicious email. Instead, go to the source of where it's pointing you to and go to it manually to see what happens there. So that's item.
And Kirkland's Farm made a suggestion: hover over the link before you click it. That makes perfect sense, because if you just hover over it, you can see where it's actually going to take you.
Well, yes and no, because I will say that there's something called spoofing where you can make it look like I'm going to paypal.com, but in all reality, it's a redirect website. I mean, granted, if it says, hey, PayPal, and you click on it and it's, you know, Bob's Hackerville in Russia or something like that, then of course. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of companies out there that are very smart in doing what's called IP spoofing or URL spoofing, things like that, where they make it look like, and it actually is paypal.com, whatever, but then when you click on it, it actually is some of the subtext ahead of it is causing it to go because there's a cookie associated with it. So hovering over it does help sort out some of the easy ones, but the real easy way to do it is actually go directly over to wherever they're telling you to and start there.
Well, and there's another suggestion from Pickled Ham Production. Always manually type in the URL if it's your bank, PayPal, or sensitive websites.
Absolutely.
I think that's excellent advice.
Absolutely. Well,
so,
wait.
Go ahead.
Second item is I recommend, and I'm not here to pitch anyone's particular software or anything like that, but getting a good anti-malware software, if you have a PC on your computer, will save you a ton. A lot of them have an anti-ransomware capability built into it right now. They play really nice with your antivirus software on your computer, and it really catches all of those different things. So on my PC, one of the things we were testing out is this anti-malware product that had basically hacking functionality built in, where it looks for those what are called phishing emails, and it flagged it before I even got to the point of clicking on the link. So it actually stopped it before I even got to the point. But anyways, I still went over to Google Documents to see if it was a real document, and it wasn't. So look at your malware software, and for $19.95, or I think they're $29.95 or whatever it is, buy a software, and it makes it super easy to protect your computer.
Now we're not endorsing any company for malware software or anything like that. But is there anyone in your opinion that is a little bit better than the other? Is there an edge, or do they all kind of do the same thing?
I actually think probably one of the best anti-malware softwares out there is from a company called Malwarebytes. They make a title that they have a real basic one, or you can get the step-up version that has the anti-phishing and all that stuff in it. The coolest thing about it is it updates itself probably once a week with all the new things that are out there. So they've got a group of guys who are going and looking for all of this stuff. So as this stuff is becoming popular and coming through the internet, they're catching it and putting it in their software ahead of time. Surprisingly enough, there's a lot of government agencies, there's a lot of big universities, and a lot of really big groups that have huge numbers of computers that trust their stuff to Malwarebytes. So I look at it as, if those groups are using it, I probably would too.
Well, and here's one of the stupid basic things that should be common sense to everybody. Don't go to shady websites. If you go to shady websites, it's like you're inviting trouble. I mean, it's just a simple thing, because if you're embarrassed to have anybody see the content you're viewing, well, maybe you might not want to be there, because there's probably people there that would love to take your money, or else show everybody what you're looking at.
Absolutely.
So cool. Basic stuff, guys. Also too, chatting with Will earlier, we're going to kind of make a slight shift in the content of this, Thursday Tech Talk. We're still going to talk, production stuff for YouTube makers and all that kind of thing. We're going to start to expand our horizons in new realms of nerdiness, and basically stuff that most folks use, whether it's technology for your house or modems, routers, all that kind of stuff that we have in our life. And we're going to start adding a little bit to that, around that topic of, hey, this is stuff that we all use. How can we use it to the best effect in your world? Well, actually, go ahead.
Let's go one step further with it, which is one of the things, like potentially on one of the upcoming shows, this is an offline conversation, but recently we had some severe weather that hit our homestead. And I know that there's a ton of people right now who are under a bunch of severe weather. And one of the topics that somebody was saying is, hey, is there a way that I can use technology to help understand the weather and what's going on and things like that? And I know that we talked about in a future show, potentially talking about weather radios and things and apps you can get on your phone for free that will, help protect you and your family on your property, using technology to protect your family. Are there camera systems you can use so you can watch what's going on at your homestead while you're not there? Those types of things.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I would have to say, if I had a teleporter like in Star Trek, I think that would solve a good 80% of my problems, just in general. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I show this as technology, but I mean, I don't know if I can get it without a glare there. But that's the driveway at the homestead property right now, so I can see who comes in right on my cell phone.
That is crazy. That is awesome.
So the coolest thing is that kit was cheap. It was $29 for the camera, and it just connects to the internet. I mean, that's the thing is, like, I'm a frugal guy. I don't buy really expensive stuff. I try not to push people on technology on really expensive things. Let's find the easiest and simplest and cheapest ways to get things done. Yeah, you could spend a lot of money on a camera system for your house, but why not buy something for $29 where you can, do that?
Well, actually, it's funny because we don't endorse Simply Safe, but that's our home security thing, is the Simply Safe, and they send you all of the sensors, and they have this base station that acts kind of like the Google modem, and it talks to all these things, and it's all no wires at all. But they just started coming out with cameras too, and what's cool about it is you pay for the junk, and then you could not have any monitoring. You can monitor for a month, monitor for 6 months, whatever you pick. And now they've got the cameras, and it's like, man, oh man, you're right. You don't have to spend $5,000 on somebody coming and setting up a home security system and then locking you in for $40 a month for the next 8 years. Technology is making a lot of this stuff a lot more accessible to a bigger crowd.
No, that's exactly right. And I've been watching the chat a little here while you were talking, and I mentioned the camera thing. I will tell you this, and this goes back to even the first part of our conversation, is put a password on your stuff. You wouldn't have your house without a lock on the front door. Of course, put a password on your camera so people can't just randomly view it. It's very simple. Put a password on your router so people can't do it. Put a password on your phone so, people can't get into it. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're 100% safe because you have a password on there, but don't use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as your password on everything that you have. Have a different password for everything that you have in your life. And that way, it's more difficult that people get it. Because if you use the same password for your bank, for your YouTube account, for your Yahoo account, for your Google account, if somebody finds that password, they have the keys to your kingdom. And that's one thing you don't want to have happen.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, when it comes to passwords, I've kind of graduated. I'll actually make shapes and on the keyboard and then combine it with some other word. So it's like, there's no way anybody would guess this, because unless you're looking at the keyboard and guessing at the shape, it wouldn't make any sense to anybody. The letters and characters would not make any sense at all.
Yeah, that works out really well. The other one that I've seen people do is, because they're making passwords longer and longer for the different accounts, is maybe you do a pattern and then you do the word Yahoo and then you do your pattern again, whatever it is. And then for your Google account, it's, whatever, and then Google, and then whatever. And that way you can remember in your mind, okay, my password is always this in the beginning and this at the end. And then whatever service I'm using, if it's US Bank or if it's Wells Fargo or if it's PayPal or whatever it is, that's the word in the middle that always changes. So that makes the difference between all the different passwords.
Nice. So, okay, let's get back to some YouTube stuff. Last week, we talked about some different ways. You brought them to the table, and different ways that you can go ahead and actually make a little bit of money on your channel without, making people sit through 5 hours of commercials and, making the content unbearable to watch. And we got through a few things, some affiliate programs, we got through some direct sponsorship, merchandising, but then we stopped at around digital media, digital products, things like ebooks. Why don't you talk for a little bit just about ebooks?
So ebooks, there's a lot of different ways you can do ebooks. I know a person right now who made a cookbook, and they basically typed it up on Word on their computer. Everybody has a word processing software on their computer in some way, shape, or form. And they typed up whatever they were looking for. Some people use like Microsoft Publisher, and they can put the graphics in like you'd have in a regular book and those types of things around the outside of it. And they produce the whole document. And then what they do is when you go to print, if you hit print, you can send it to your printer, but one of the options is to save it as a PDF. And so they save it as a PDF document, so it's more difficult to copy and more difficult to, edit and those types of things. And then they sell it online for a couple bucks. So, hey, here's the top 10 recipes I have from my restaurant, and we're going to sell them in an ebook for $3 on our website. It's a real simple way that anybody, you don't have to have a high production capability like a special software to produce it or anything like that. Now, if you wanted to sell it online and you wanted to prevent piracy, you can go through some steps to add some security to that book so it can't be copied or things like that. But quite honestly, I mean, just typing it up in Word, making sure that it reads well, have a bunch of people, read it to make sure that you don't have grammar or spelling issues or things like that. And you can turn it into a PDF and secure it and then start selling it to people. And the best part about it is once you do that, it's evergreen, in the sense that you make it once and you can sell it over and over and over again, just like a video. You make a video once and then you want people to view it over and over and over again. So it could be a steady stream of income for a long period of time.
You can also do that with music. It's a little bit harder, I think, just because there's more involved in creating it. Unless you're just an incredibly gifted, singer, guitar player, whatever, you can sit down and do a take, then that's great. But it's the getting the money part that's a lot harder when you're talking about something that's not tangible. But then again, that's a funny thing when you talk about an ebook. Well, of course it's not tangible, but people still want them anyway. It's funny being in the recording industry as long as I have. People really push back when you let's say that you give like a half of a song, like, so you play, you let your recording go and people can buy half of the song or 30% of the song. And if you want the rest, you can buy it for $1. But that did not work long before people just started getting ticked and they just would say, I'm not going to listen to you at all. It's like, so I don't know about a happy medium when it comes to music, but for whatever reason, you're right, man. Cookbooks do very, very well.
I've even seen some people talk about potentially doing their journals or things like that, or even just writing a book on a specific topic or a short story or something like that. And there's tons of different publications and ways that you can share that online. In fact, actually, one of the topics we talked about is Amazon affiliates, but to go one step further, you can actually open an account on Amazon and potentially sell your book on Amazon just like anybody else as an ebook. Now, granted, they have some criteria for what the technology needs to be, and you have to read their terms and conditions to make sure you have all that. But then now you have a mechanism to sell that ebook to people. Granted, you have, like I said, you have to follow their rules of engagement, and it's a little complex, and we can probably talk about that on a later show because I'm just researching it now. But it's definitely something cool to take a look at and look in and see if it'll work for you.
Absolutely. So ebooks, yay, winning. Also, guys, I don't know the names of the websites specifically, but there are websites that you can use their templates and pull all of your recipes in there. You just grab them, drag them, drop them, put them in there. It makes nice little artwork and stuff. And you can get the ebook for, it's something like $15. So you've assembled a professional looking ebook just by dragging and dropping your recipes. But what's also cool is that if you want to, if people want to buy a physical copy, they buy it through them, they make it, and you just get your profit cut. So it's a lot like the t-shirts. And I think, did we talk about t-shirts last week? I cannot remember.
We talked about it for a little bit, and merchandising and putting your name and logo on different things. But you're right. I mean, like, I know of, and I didn't get my homework done before the show tonight, but one of the things that I know is possible is there are some services where you can log in, set up an account, you can upload your ebook, set everything up on the website, and then when you hit produce, it'll produce it so you can sell it, but then they'll also send you a PDF that's secure so you can have a secure copy that you can sell to consumers so you don't have to worry about it being copyright or stolen or pirated or shared around or anything like that. So there is a way to potentially do that too. I don't have the name of the services, but I'll have it for next week.
Sweet. All right, well, let's kind of leave ebooks alone for just a bit. And the next one on our list is consulting or private lessons. Now, being a guitar player, that makes perfect sense to me. I understand. I can say, hey, it's $25 for a half hour to teach you guitar. And that's just that. I understand that. And also for folks in, homesteading or self-reliance, or let's say that, survival is your thing. Those are skills that people are willing to pay actual money for so that they can be mano a mano with you. YouTube is great, and YouTube is awesome when it comes to conveying information. However, there's nothing that can be replaced by learning from someone who's standing right there saying, no, you hold it this way, or no, you do this, or no, this is how you should do it. But now consulting that to me is a little more vague. I understand in the business world. How would that fit into a homesteading, prepper, self-reliant kind of vibe?
Okay, so you and I talked about this 2 weeks ago, but I'm going to bring this one back up again. So I was going through Craigslist looking up information about beekeeping, and I found a gentleman online who holds a class where for $20 you come out to his farm on a Saturday or whatever it is, and he has 20 or 30 people show up. He has some light snacks or whatever it is, and you go out into his bee yard and he has a class that he holds. So let's say your property, your homestead, whatever, has a special trait. Like ours has an apple orchard, and I'm getting into becoming an orchardist. Once I get really good at that skill, or maybe you have pigs or you have cows or something like that, you could hold a class and be a consultant or a teacher on a specific topic. Have it out there that people come to your farm and do that. I've seen different YouTube channels that had farm days where they had it open to the community where they could come and learn about whatever it is. And each member of the family had their own piece. Like one person taught about what they did with the chickens, because there's people in the city and pretty much anywhere that would love to have the farm experience without necessarily living on the farm every day. And I've seen a ton of people, at least in our metro, where a lot of the farms especially in the fall, like during the apple orchard season, come out to the apple orchard. We'll have you pick apples and we'll teach you how to prune trees and do all this kind of stuff, and you walk home with a bag of apples and you pay $25 or whatever it is to come to the class. And that's one way to do consulting regarding your homestead, is find your niche of something that you're really good at or that you're an expert on, and figure out a way to gather people together who would be interested in learning about your expertise and teach them.
I agree, man. As a matter of fact, at the church that I worked at recently, they had a charity, like one of those, what do they call them, the auctions, where you'll put out your goodies on a table, and not a craft show, it was like a blind auction, I guess, where people would say, oh, I want to win this package, or I want to win these Reds tickets, or I want to win this, and so I'll put $1 in for a shot at winning that one. Well, what I did, because I didn't have anything, let's just say this way, I offered a beekeeping experience, just like it's exactly like you're saying. And so the charity at our church got like $400 for me to go and talk with a husband and wife and their kid about bees, show them the bees, show them the beehive, let's suit up, let's go get some honey, that whole thing. But I could definitely see how that would be an absolute tangible way that a homestead could make a little bit extra money on the side. And you're helping those people, even if they're not going to be beekeepers. But there's always a skill. And I'm seeing old Alabama Gardener here in the chat, and he's talking about these Japanese culinary delights and stuff. And I got to say, man, I've watched a lot of your videos, and I guarantee you that if I was within a 50-mile ride, I would be more than willing to come and give you some money just so that you could walk around and show me this is this and that is that, just for an hour. It would be money well worth spent.
Road trip for sure.
Yep. So now, okay, go ahead.
One other item on this, and people are like, well, what kind of topics do people do this on? I've seen ones where bring your chainsaw. I'm going to teach you how to sharpen your chainsaw blade on your chainsaw and go through a whole class of how to maintain your chainsaw. small engines, beekeeping, apple orchards, come out to the pumpkin patch, how to maintain your tractor, things to do in the garden.
Compost.
You know, what's that?
Compost.
Another compost class. Here we go.
Yeah. So a lot of things, guys. So if you're out there watching, just understand that, and I believe this truly, everybody's good at something. We're all blessed with a certain skill set, a certain gifts, and not everybody's the same. But you can always find something that you're really good at, that you're passionate about, and go and gravitate toward those things, because there's always somebody else out there who's going, man, I wish I would have known more about blah. And you may think you're odd because you have a forge and make knives from scratch. You may think that's odd, but there's a lot of people who go, I want to know how to do that.
I would love a hatchet or axe class or something like that to go. I mean, one of my buddies, I think I've showed this before on the show, but one of my buddies made this for me. This is his logo right here.
That is awesome.
And he does all sorts of work like that. And I know that he's done some classes in the past where you come in and they give you a handle and a head, and you figure out how to polish everything down and finish everything off, and then how to mount a handle and put all the pieces together. And you walk home with this. And yeah, you paid $100 for the class, but you get a fabulous hatchet or something like that along with it. So I mean, definitely.
Yeah. Well, and me being from the rock and roll background that I am, I nearly took a class on how to build tube guitar amplifiers. And believe it or not, for those of you guys who may be a little bit not in the guitar amp scene, believe it or not, tube amplifiers are still the benchmark. Solid state amps are horrible. Tube amps are the way that everybody, any guitar player would be happy to pay, five times more for a good tube amp over a solid state amp. But they had this class, and it was like $400, but you take an amp home, same thing. And so figure out what those things are in your world.
Definitely.
Because there's always, everybody's good at something.
Yep. So, no, I mean, I've had people talk to me, and I know Colleen put something there about doing a Kubota workshop or something like that. I've had some people like where I've done even just online video chats like we're doing right now, where they're like, hey, I'm thinking about buying a tractor, but they're really expensive. I mean, tractors can be anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000. So it's an investment. No matter how big or small your homestead is, it's still an investment. And sometimes you want to talk to somebody who's had one for a while to tell you why they like it and why they don't. And this person hopped on a chat like we're doing right now, and I went through all these different ideas about what I use my tractor for, how I do it, and everything like that. I didn't even ask for any money, and he sent me $25 via PayPal and said, hey, why don't you take your family out to dinner one night? This was really cool that you did this. So just kind of different ways to do it. Sometimes, donating your time, and all of a sudden somebody does a super chat or does something like that to support your channel, and that works also.
Yeah, and the thing I like about a lot chatting with you is you force me to think outside of the boxes that I've already made for myself. And I think that this is a great forum for that, because I'm trying to read all the comments, and I'm trying to listen, and I'm picking up on a bunch of different stuff from a bunch of different places. But the idea that we can just go ahead and step aside from the stuff that we think we know everything about and think about it in a different way, I think that is hugely beneficial to everybody, especially those trying to be self-reliant. But moving on, here we go. Let's talk about freelance work services. You talked a little bit about this. I think we talked about Fiverr, that kind of thing, a little bit in the past. But for those of you who don't know what Fiverr is, take it away, Will.
So there's a website called Fiverr. I recommend it to a lot of people. If you've ever seen my logo for the Weekend Homestead or any of the graphics that I use in any of my videos, a lot of those came from Fiverr. What Fiverr is based on is the idea that all projects start out at $5. So let's say you need a logo made or whatever it is. You put it on the website, hey, I need a logo and this is what it is. And people will bid on it and say, I'll do that for $5, or I'll do that for $25, or whatever the amount is, and so on. And then you get a draft and you put it together. They do music, they do commercials, they do videos, they do clips, they do writing, they do blog posts, whatever you can think of, they can do. So yes, you can go to that website to consume that information, but you can also go to that website to sell your talents and abilities, in the sense of, let's say you're a really good graphic artist. And I know there was somebody recently, and I'm sorry I'm spacing on the name right now, but somebody worked on a graphics project for me, and they did a really good job, and they had a great portfolio of some graphic stuff. The name is just slipping my mind right now. It's 3 weeks ago, and I've had a lot going on in the last couple of weeks with the storms and everything, so I'm kind of little scatterbrain. But the short of it is that person could easily sign up for an account on Fiverr and bid on those jobs and do freelance work that way. Or guess what? If you make a lot of YouTube videos, like my buddy Martin, he makes a lot of YouTube videos. He runs a channel called Scrambled O. He's got about 45,000 subscribers. And he does all sorts of self-reliant and to them who wanted their wedding video put together or wanted their apartment complex some commercials for their residents to come and take a look at it. So he actually ended up going out and shooting some video based on the fact that they saw his bushcraft and hiking videos. They said, hey, why don't you make a commercial for us on this topic instead? And next thing you know, he's now doing freelance jobs here and there. He'll make $250 or $500 putting together a video commercial for somebody. And that's one of the reasons why you want to make sure you have, you know, your videos up online and some of your best work, because people could see it. And if you wanted to sell your talents on that, it would be a real easy way to show your resume.
Love it. Our next point is something that I think I'm going to have to detour just a little bit, because we talked about this and it comes up from time to time. And it was going to, the topic was going to be how to get yourself out there, how to do that kind of stuff. But I think we need to shift gears and talk about the importance of a website. Having your own website in addition to the social media stuff. In my mind, guys, they're inseparable. My website right now is absolutely horrible. And I'm actually wanting to get in touch with Pickled Ham Productions, and I just keep not having enough time. But my website was put together in one of those, you know, turnkey solutions, and we haven't touched it in a year. But even though we've been just absolutely horrible when it comes to our updating and all that kind of stuff, we still see fruit from the website. We still get people that sign up on the newsletters, and we still get a lot of people that show up at the website and then go to the YouTube channel. I personally think you gotta have a website, and a lot of people are saying you don't have to, because you can use Facebook as your website, or you can use YouTube as your website. And while I understand that, I still think it's invaluable to have your own website, even if it's a Wix site or some one of those turnkey things. What do you think?
I have my website currently up on the screen right now, if you guys can see it here. Amazing. I kid. Actually, I tell people all the time, websites make you look professional. Websites kind of bring all the components together and introduce people to your ecosystem. I always talk about it as your ecosystem, but you might do Pinterest and Facebook, Instagram and YouTube, let's say, and you put all this stuff together. But if you don't cross-pollinate your social medias together or have a single place for people to go find more information out about you, unfortunately, you run into a scenario where I might only know you for YouTube, but I don't realize that every day you post content on Instagram, and I could consume more of your content as you produce it. And what I like to say is a website is a really easy way to bring all of your stuff together to one location. I, unfortunately, because of just being so busy, I would love to have a website. I actually even have the drawings and everything out there. So if anybody wants to build a website for me, let me know. But I haven't gotten around to getting it done. And it's really simple. Maybe have a tab with all your Facebook stuff on it, have a tab with all your YouTube stuff on it, and have a tab with all your, different pieces. And I'm going to tout a service here that's called If Then. And what If Then does is, if you post something to YouTube, then post it on my website. If you post something on Facebook, then post it on my website. If you post something on Instagram, then post it on my website. So there's services out there that are free that will make it so you don't have to do double work. Because a lot of people are really concerned with, I'm going to have a website, and then how am I going to keep it populated with everything? I barely have enough time to get my Instagram done and my Facebook done and my YouTube done. Well, would you rather have it be where you upload something to YouTube and it automatically posts it to Twitter and then automatically puts it on your website, and you don't have to think about putting it on those two other sources, and you're already got those things covered? So there's a service called If Then. If you just look up online, Hootsuite, If Then, and there's a couple other ones where you put in all your social medias, you put in your website and everything like that. Whenever you do one thing on one of them, it puts it into all the other ones automatically.
That's very cool. We've dealt with several different CMS systems, and if you guys don't know what a CMS system means, it's a content management system. And what that means is you'll have a structure, think of girders of a building without a skin on it, and you can then put your pictures and your data and all your stuff that you want on your website into that that skin it out and give it functionality. And we've had some success with some. And I will say the one that we've had success with the most, honestly, has been a Wix site. And I saw someone was saying, hey, they lure you in and then they make you pay. Well, yes and no. I mean, they're pretty clear with what functionality you're going to get with the free version, and then it's different if you want the paid version. And we struggled with getting a website together that was a shopping cart, so we could sell our soap, because we sell fresh, handmade goat's milk soap, and it was like a miracle to try to put all these pieces together. And then all of a sudden one day I stumbled onto Wix, and within a half hour we were able to have a store that worked and people could buy our soap. And so for me, that's a win, even though it's not the all-in-one solution. I would love to have one website where you have all of that stuff, where you get your media, you got your blog, you get your ads, you've got your shopping cart and all that kind of stuff. And I know they're out there, but it's so dang hard, because when you go to Google something and you're like, website, shopping cart, you type in your search criteria, and what happens? You got about 50 billion ads that all look like they're pretty interesting. And so you click on them, and then all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, you go, this isn't it. And then you go back and then you read through another one. 10 minutes later, this isn't it. And finding that one spot where it really comes together, I have a hard time finding it.
Yeah, and I think about like what you just said about selling soap or doing whatever it is. So rewinding back to the commentary of selling your services, selling your pieces, selling whatever, having the ability to have, YouTube doesn't have the ability to check out right now. Facebook has somewhat of the ability to do checkout and things like that if you use a program called Shopify. Instagram doesn't allow you to do checkout or anything like that. So you really have to have a website. If you're going to sell some goods of some kind, whether it be your cookbook that you just made, or your recipe guides, or your soap, or your whatever goods you're going to try to sell. If you're into, making leather sheaths for axes, and that's your hobby or whatever it is, and you do videos on YouTube on how to do it, but then you also sell these on your website, you need one important thing, which is a website. And yeah, there might be some nominal cost to it. I think some of them are as cheap as $20 to $40 a year, to some of them are $10 a month. You kind of get what you pay for, and you have to kind of read the fine print a little bit on it. Yes, there are free websites out there. I recommend the free ones to people who are just getting started, who aren't trying to sell anything. But to be quite honest with you, to go the one step further, you sell 4 or 5 bars of soap, and all of a sudden you've just paid for your internet service and things like that. I mean, people talk about buying a $200 microphone or a $100 piece for their camera or something like that, but then they get a little weird when you're like, oh, it's $40 a year to have a web.
You know what's really crazy about that too? Nobody really kind of gripes about the $1,000 iPhone 7 that they just got, because it was broken into $14 a month.
Yep.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not here to tell people spend money or do anything else, because there's plenty of free options. Like, I know if you buy a domain at GoDaddy, they will give you a free WordPress site that you can post to some limited information, and that might be enough to get you going. That's all you might need. You just need a flag in the ground and somewhere to start with. And if your channel grows and everything starts growing for your YouTube piece, add on to it later, but at least get something started. And don't be like me, where I say, get a website, and then you don't ever get one, because I'm that guy. The cobbler's kids do not have shoes in my house.
Well, and I would like to take just a few moments to press out further what you're saying, just because one of the big themes I have always tried to make sure that everybody understands, even though we're talking about how to make YouTube, better, and to help you, make a couple bucks while you're doing this. One of the things I've always said is just get started. You don't have to spend a ton of money. You can find the free programs out there. If you need Microsoft Office, well, get OpenOffice. OpenOffice is free. You don't have to spend the money and get Microsoft Office. If you're like, oh, I need to edit video, why don't you use Windows Movie Maker to get started? Sure, it's not going to have all the bells and whistles as everything else, but just get cooking. YouTube is free, guys. Can you imagine that? I mean, honestly, let's pause here for a second, Will. Let's just go 15 years ago. Back when you had to have your videos, if you could even see a video, it had to be like a meg or 2 meg long, period. And if not, you had to have a streaming server that would cost you tens of thousands of dollars. And we get that to the 10th degree for free. Just get started.
Yeah, I can't stress it enough. And the other thing too is like some of the biggest YouTube channels out there that you know of, I'm going to just say a name, and I've talked about him before, but the Boss of the Swamp, everybody's like, oh, he makes great videos and great content. He makes it on Windows Movie Maker, like the free one that came with your computer. That's all he uses, and that's all he's ever used. He learned how to use it well. But the part comes back to the same thing that we always say is content is king. He has great content. He has great stuff. He doesn't have all the flashy whiz-bang stuff on it. He has great content. He's got 65,000 subscribers and 7 million views using Windows Movie Maker.
Yep. And how many people do we know that we all love the content and they're just literally on their cell phone? There are no takes. It's just I talk and talk and talk, and we walk and we show, and then we're done, and then poof. There's so many of those channels out there that it is. You're absolutely right. Content is king. All right, well, let's move on because it's already 8:41, and I want to make sure we get to a couple other things. But licensing deals. Tell me what you feel about licensing deals, because you know what? Let's take this and back up. Of the people that are in the chat right now, I'm noticing some folks who are content creators. And have you guys yet been approached by a network that seems to come and want to have your best interest in mind? And I have definitive opinions on this. What do you think, Will, about the dreaded networks?
Uh-oh. I think you and I have a difference of opinion here on this one because I am with the network.
No, bad juju. Tell me why.
Okay, so here's why I'm with the network. I know that I'm going to have to do a mountain of work on YouTube to have the dollars add up to something substantial. The network that I'm with provides TubeBuddy for free, analytics, an account on a couple different web server companies. I can get t-shirts made for super cheap. I can get all these different services added together. And when I started on YouTube, I figured out that in a 6-month period, I made $66, and I had to give, of that $66, I had to give $12 to my network. But in exchange, I got access to TubeBuddy, which was $10 a month, and Epoxy, which is $20 a month, and all these other programs that helped grow my channel to where it is today. On Christmas Day, I was at 900 subscribers. Today, I'm at 2,600, and I'm using the services that the network provided to me to do that, to grow my channel, to get my name out there, to get all these different things. I am not in any way, shape, or form recommending anybody to get involved with the channel in any way. I made the choice because I went, well, I have to sign up for a year or two with these guys, and am I actually going to make enough money in a month's time period to, have a scenario where I'm going to pocket it versus buying all these services that I can use. So I learned all these different services and all these different pieces that were associated with how the networks worked and how to utilize them, and tapped into their networks and got collaborations and all these other things with all sorts of people who I normally wouldn't have connected with. And in exchange, I gave them a small percentage of a small amount of money that I was getting anyways.
Hold on one quick second. I got to jump in because there is definitely some confusion that's going on. When we talk about networks, first of all, let me make one thing real clear. The Homestead Network is not like these networks we're talking about. The Homestead Network is just an association of channels that support each other. And we have a website that you can go to click on a time when a show's on. There's no money involved. There's nothing involved. It's just, hey, I like Off Grid Nation. And so I will tell people about Off Grid Nation. Hey, I like the Weekend Homestead. And we have show times, for lack of a better term. But that's all it is. There's no money involved. The networks I'm talking about, guys, are actual businesses that will approach content creators. I get these emails every day. And they're basically like, hi, I'm such and such from blah, 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 TV.net network. And what they want you to do, what they're wanting you to do is they're wanting to have you partner with them. And in exchange, they're going to get a cut of everything you make. Everything you make. And in exchange, to be fair, they offer services like Will is saying. So that's a huge difference. Don't confuse the two. The Homestead Network is a network really in name only. It's not like those things at all. There's no money that transfers. Now, with that said, the reason why I don't really care for the networks that are charging like a company is because all of the services that they're offering, I can already do on my own for free. Why would I give up a chunk of the money that was so hard to make? Number one, but hold on. I can understand people that are busy and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to deal with this. There could be a convenience factor there. No doubt about that. But for me, I don't want somebody owning 50, 40, 30% of my content. And for what? I mean, I have my music libraries. I make my own videos. I don't do all the stuff. And when I post a video, I put it in my own tags. I don't use TubeBuddy or anything like that. Maybe I should. Maybe I will someday, because a lot of people are going, man, it's such a time saver. Well, maybe it hasn't hit me yet, because when I make a video, I understand I got 10 more minutes of putting in metadata, tags, and all this kind of stuff before I'm done. So for me, it doesn't seem like a value. But then again, I will also say I come from the background of working with record labels and publishing companies, and they want as much of the pie as they can keep in their corner. And so it might just be a knee-jerk reaction, but I have not seen, out of all of the guys that have approached us, a value that made it worth looking at, even if it was 20% of the cut.
Sure. So let me answer a couple of questions that came through chat here as we were going along. One, a network is called an MCN, multi-channel network. And the idea is exactly what Brad said, is they give you services in exchange for a percentage of what you produce. Most of them have a 6-month, a 1-year, or a 2-year agreement. And what that means is any money that you earn during those periods of time, they get a percentage of. I've seen the percentage as low as 5%. I've seen the percentage as high as 25%. Now, interestingly enough, I also know some MCNs that don't take any percentage at all. And instead, what they do is they say, okay, Brad at the Big Family Homestead, here's what we're going to do. Your business is in this niche right here, very tight. You are a farm and you're doing farm stuff. We want to sell your videos to Kubota, to John Deere, and so on and so forth. And you all of a sudden people watch these YouTube videos, and there's a commercial that plays before it. You kind of know what the normal videos are and the normal commercials, but then all of a sudden you watch some people's and you're like, holy cow, these are high produced commercials from Samsung and from Procter & Gamble and from Kubota and so on and so forth. There are some MCNs that will buy your ad space. There are other ones that will take some of your money and in exchange give service. I went with, because I didn't have a lot of views. In order to get to the premium MCNs, you got to have a lot of views to get, some of those deals. On the flip side of it, I went with an MCN because they gave me a give example, an account on Audio Micro. An Audio Micro account is $250 a year to download X amount of music. They gave that to me for free. Well, as a starting YouTube channel, I didn't have any music at all. And instead of having to go search for some or whatever it was, and they're like, we'll take 10% of yours or 20% of your ad revenue. And I looked at it, and last year I made, $87. So, they took 10% or 20% of that. And, they got their $16 in exchange. I got $250 worth of free music that I can use forever. So that's why I went with it. I don't recommend it to everybody, and don't go with any of them until you know what you're getting into, because there are ones out there that will rip you off. There's a large group of them that are just there to get their percentage and not do a thing for you. I chose one based on a recommendation from somebody else who has a pretty big YouTube channel and wanted to help me out. And I looked at it as, I get all these free services and I'm not really going to produce that much revenue in my first year anyway, so why not do it?
Well, I can see that. And once again, in all honesty, I think what this boils down to is each channel has to make that decision for themselves based on where their skill level is, where they want to be, and do those services really add value to what you're doing? Because if you were, let's say you were a channel like J00, John over there, J00, there's no way he would ever use an MCN. It's just him and his phone talking about fishing, because he's a regular dude, and I like John. He's a regular dude, and he doesn't need any of that kind of stuff. It would not make sense for him. But now there might be another channel that might be more of a cooking channel bent. One of the channels I really like for cooking is called Food Wishes. And this guy, he's all you ever see of him is his hands. He talks, and then he just has food. But I could see somebody like that benefiting for graphics and stuff that's a little more polished, looks like a Martha Stewart show that you're actually watching. You might be able to see some of that kind of stuff. There might be value in that, but I think you have to look long and hard at what they're actually offering, because generally speaking, they're not approaching you because they like you. They're approaching you because they smell blood in the water.
Absolutely. And I can't recommend that enough. I mean, for me, I looked at it as I knew it would take 2 years to get my channel going and get to somewhere. If I hit my goal of having 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year, my contract is up in February of next year. So if I hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I've gathered music for 2 years and graphics for 2 years and learned YouTube and had access to these experts and everything else, and then I spin off and say, okay, I'm done as of February or whatever, I kind of looked at it as I used them. You know, they took a small percentage of my money and I got a whole bunch of use out of it, and it helped springboard my channel to go forward. But mine is a very unique scenario, and I went into it wholeheartedly knowing what I was going to do, and I did my part to execute my part to get the most out of it. If you go into it and you don't use it the right way, or you don't know what you're getting involved in, you are probably going to get screwed in the deal. And that's why I don't recommend them to people unless you know exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Absolutely. Seeing that we've got, looks like we got 8 minutes and change before the evening, before I turn into a pumpkin, and then somebody has to go find my shoe and a glass slipper and a Prince or something. But tip of the week. You brought this up in an email to me this week, and I think it's fabulous, and I think everybody should be using it. The YouTube tip of the week brought to you by the Weekend Homestead. Will at the Weekend Homestead. For all of your dining and dancing needs, think of Will at the Weekend Homestead. So tell us this tip of the week, the subscriber link, dude.
So there's, did you put it down in the description down below?
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, and then it'll get there.
Okay. So the really simple part of it is, you okay over there?
I didn't put it in the link.
Wait, what do you need?
It's in an email. I can't get to it.
I can get to it.
How about this? We'll tell them about the link, and if they think it's worth it, they'll come back in 30 minutes and type it out, because it's in my email.
The short of it is there's ways you can add things to your link. So as you can see in the chat here, if you're in the chat right there or wherever it is on your computer, maybe it's over there. You can put in, www.youtube.com/your name or whatever your URL is. But one of the things is there's something called scripts that you can add to your text. And what I sent to everybody this week was a small script that you can add to the end, which will automatically take a person who's a subscriber to your homepage, and they'll interact with your homepage. If they're not a subscriber, they'll take you to the same homepage, but then before they can do anything, a little box pops up in the middle of the screen that says subscribe, and they have to hit subscribe, and then they go to your page. So it's one of the little tricks. Say again?
I said subscribe to win. I want you to restate that because this is huge.
Okay, so there's a script that you can add, and all a script is some extra text on the end of the word that tells your web browser to do something a little different. And there's tons and tons of scripts out there. This is the one that I'm pitching this week, which is a really simple one. You go to www.youtube.com/whatever your name is, and then you add this little bit of text on the end. And you make that your URL that everybody goes to. So when you say, hey, go check out my channel, or go check out the link, or the links are in the description, or check it out in the chat, or wherever you tell people to go to, send them to that one no matter what. If they're a subscriber and they click on that link, nothing different happens. They go to your homepage and you're all set to go. If it doesn't work, or if they're not a subscriber, when they click on that link, it takes you to the page, and it looks the same as the page, but before they can go any further, it pops up a little box that says subscribe, and it kind of makes them subscribe in order to continue going on your page. So you press the little button, and boom, they become a subscriber, and then they can interact with your page. It's very simple. It's a little piece of text. You put it on the end, make it into your links, make it into your Google short links, whatever you want to do. Perfect and easy. That's the tip.
Here is that script. So after the end of the name, it's we're going to put it in the description below. Claire's been writing feverishly, trying to write it down, but it's not that long. It's when the end of your name is for your URL, It's a question mark, sub, S-U-B, underscore, confirmation equals 1. So question mark, sub, underscore, confirmation equals 1. Claire's going to put it in the description, but can we see that? Yes, no, maybe?
No.
Drats.
Here, I got it.
Claire's going to type it in. Looks like we've got about 5 minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about speaking gigs, because this is kind of a thing that will not come up a lot until I believe that you're in a bigger channel, that you have a larger audience. So talk about speaking gigs.
I know a couple different channels that I've worked with, and I kind of talked about it a little bit, where they had things where people came to, you know, their farm and they went through a speaking gig or something like that, where they talked about beekeeping or prepping or whatever it was, and you host a little event or something like that. But I'm going to use a channel, Wrangler Star, as an example. So his channel grew, he got very, very big, and then the Mother Earth News Fair contacted him and said, hey, would you come and do a class on old woodworking tools and things like that? So he flew out to the different events and he did a speaking gig, and people showed up and went to those things. It's kind of one of those things you have to do later on in your YouTube career. If you have 100 subscribers on your channel and you're just getting going, I don't think Mother Earth News Fair may contact you or not. I know that there's a couple people who have done TED Talks that are YouTubers that have had different channels and things like that out there. Speaking gigs are possible. It comes down to the content. Those people got those gigs because they're known as experts in the field. They've shown repeatedly that they're really good at whatever the topic is that they know, and they've become an expert at it, and people are looking for that information. They're seeking it out. So people will say, hey, do you want to come out and do a speaking gig on beekeeping because you are the beekeeping expert? You know, I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name, and I should know it off the top of my head, Salatin. I can't think of his first name.
Joel Salatin.
Joel Salatin. Guess what? He gets speaking gigs. Why does he get speaking gigs? Can anybody tell me? Anybody?
He's an expert in his field.
There you go. Just that simple. I do speaking gigs, but my speaking gigs have to do a lot with technology and where the market's going and bringing technologies to market and things like that. Not much to do with the homesteading side of the business, but it's something where I've become an expert in that area, in that field, and it's one of the things that I'm known for. So,
well, Claire's gotten the links up there a couple times. And it'll be in the description as soon as we can make it happen. One thing, guys, before we check out and say goodnight, Will is being so gracious in sharing his time and his knowledge with us. If you're not already subscribed to the Weekend Homestead channel, please do so. It helps him out greatly, and you can't see what he's doing right now, but he's got glasses that look like mine. I have him in a little view right here. He's trying to be distracting, but I will not be distracted. Nay, nay, nay. I will keep going. So, that said, if you will check out Will's channel, it's really, really an awesome thing. And oh my gosh, I got to tell you what, dude, I am absolutely raging. I think it's jealous of the garden thing that you put up at your weekend place. Those humongous posts. You're keeping out what, like mega deer? What do they got over there?
the apple orchard. Yeah, no, we're actually going to go up here in the next week. And it's actually a year old now. So last year we put the orchard in and everything. All the plum trees are budding out this year, and I'm trying to learn to become an orchardist and to raise trees and plants and really focusing on that side of it. I think there's a lot of people who are really good at chickens and really good at animals and pigs and things like that. And you know, I'm trying to go after the side of the business of talking about apple trees and my journey on how to start from just planting nothing to building something. So last year I did a lot of work putting that piece together. Now it's how to maintain it and how to get it to work. You know, what happens in the second year, what happens when things die, you know, those types of things.
Well, and even basic stuff like how to truly trim your trees and how to make that canopy just right so that you get maximum amount of fruit and a longer life of your tree. Which that stuff we're learning right now. And so I'll be excited and I'll be watching it for sure.
Let me ask you this quick before we go. Claire, the question of the night, and it happens every night. How many thumbs up do we have?
It's not happening tonight. It's not happening tonight. It's a bridge too far, but it'll be there before morning.
100 likes before the morning.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it. We'll have 100 likes in no time. I think it's the weird gear graphic I put up. It frightens people. I should have like should it be more like flowers and ladybugs or swords and daggers that are on fire?
I like the swords and daggers.
You like swords and daggers?
Off show.
Oh.
Here, hand me your glasses.
So, hey guys, I'm Brad,
I'm Claire.
and that's Will over there, the Weekend Homestead. I can't see nothing.
How you doing? I'm over here now.
I can't see nothing.
Hey, can we get a couple thumbs up before the end? Let's see. 75. We can get to 75.
We don't even have 75 people watching.
We're not there yet, and I know why, but we'll talk. So, hugs and kisses. Glad to have everybody there. Explosion. No, we can't do any explosions tonight, Tommy, because we're using the Google Hangouts. But you guys have a great night. We'll be back next week, and next week, doggone it, we want to see a few more of you guys here.
Yeah.
It could be a turning point. I'm not lying.
We'll have a surprise announcement next week too.
Oh yes, this is the coolest ever.
Don't tell.
No. Show it again though. Show it again.
One more time. Hold on. Let me grab it here. Oops, wrong side.
This is gonna, when you guys find out what he's got, let's just say this, it potentially could be historical in terms of an archaeological find.
Absolutely.
So anyway, you guys have a great night. Thanks for coming around, and well, poof, goodbye.
See ya.